Hi, welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jody Link-Raven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we're talking about the dumpster fire that is 2024. I mean, channel predictions for 2024. I'm sorry. I feel like I need a teddy bear. We started this conversation without you guys. We shouldn't have. I don't know. We just wanted to get a little information, maybe some insight or something. First and foremost, before we dropped in, Heather and I have not watched any other prediction episodes from any other channels or light workers or anybody because we wanted a clear channel. And holy bananas. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm still apparently having some kind of technical issue, so I can't see the live. If you can see us, say hello. Jody, I think you're in there maybe as a viewer, so if you see us, make sure you say hi for us, since I can't see anything. Hashtag dumpster fire. And it begins. So happy New Year, everybody. I hope you all had wonderful holiday season and that you had a wonderful new year and you celebrated it big, because will there be a 2025? Maybe we can get some answers to that today.
I don't know. I felt really great walking into 2024 and then okay, let me preface this. Two things here. Number one, all of this information, Heather and I are both aligned on this. Everything that's coming through, it doesn't feel scary or bad. It just feels like it is. Like it just is. It is. There's no emotion behind it or fear, and that's not our intention, is to cause any fear or panic or anything like that. So that's one thing. And number two, if you need to really ask yourself this question before you continue on, do you want to know? You know, if a bunch of crazy is going to happen in 2024, do you want to know? And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I would suggest you exit this conversation now.
Yeah, I mean, last week, while we're letting people make their choice, last week we had literally a 60-second episode. And in that episode, we asked you, are you paying attention? And this episode, I have a feeling, is going to take a turn into a direction that is going to really have you questioning whether or not, one, you're paying attention. Two, are you seeing what you need to see? And three, do you need more pressure to see? So hopefully those of you that don't want to know have jumped off, and those of you that want to watch the dumpster fire are still here. So I was actually really looking forward to today's episode. I sunk very deeply into my channel. I've called forward a lot of, really important guides, creator itself. And so we have a lot of energy and power here to share today. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat. Jody's going to be monitoring that because she can see and I'm apparently blind. And I also want to second that we have made a very concerted effort to not consume anybody else's prediction content, which was not an easy task because people started talking 2024 predictions back in November. So we are coming to you very clearly, very flatly, bringing you information from the other side. When I got into the channel today, I asked specific questions in advance so that we can get specific answers. Last year, we did a couple of predictions episodes and they were very generalized. And I'm beginning to think that part of the generalization was because there was a little gray area maybe on which way we would go. But it feels today like the line maybe has been drawn in the sand and we can actually make some real predictions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so just to bring everybody up to speed on what we talked about before we went live today, I took a few notes before we got together, and I'm just going to just read them as they came in, and then we can talk about it as we were before, and we can ask more questions. So the first thing that came in was the Great Awakening. Like, this is the Great Awakening. Okay. And when they're saying this is the Great Awakening, they're meaning this is the Great Awakening of like humanity, of, you know, the one consciousness. So we talked a few episodes back about good versus evil, or like God versus the devil. You know, we had this episode where we talked about this duality and these very polar opposites in the way of the energetic field of all things, right?
Mhm.
And one of the questions that we asked was, is God only good, or is God also evil? Right? Because, or source, creator, you know, big guy in the sky, whatever you call the creator, okay, is there a possibility that this being, this source, is playing both sides of the road?
Yeah.
And I
The
believe that we
creating
channeled,
all.
yeah, I believe that we channeled that, yes, the creator has created it all, right? So let's just preface this with that. So keep that in the back of your mind, everybody, and just go along with me here. The question that they asked is, are you seeing it? And do you need more pressure? So I said, what does this mean? What do you mean, do we need more pressure? Because God,
And seeing
love
what?
it.
There's a lot of things to see.
Totally, exactly. So what I got is, you know, there's an evil agenda at play, and there's corruption. There's going to be more corruption, and there's an alternative. There's a choice to create our own reality. And so when I hear that, and I know that creator has essentially created both sides of the coin, and we have an opportunity to see and experience either side, it tells me that there is still some choice to be made, right? Do we choose light, or do we choose dark? Which side of the road do you want to be on? And this, folks, is the Great Awakening. Seeing both sides for what they are, and then choosing which side you want to be on. Which side? Okay. And if you want to zigzag down the road, okay, but be prepared for complete chaos and anarchy, and be prepared for bliss and maybe boringness. Okay. Because let's face it, if there wasn't the contrast, it might be kind of boring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, well, what does that mean for this year? Like, what does this mean? And what I got was the breaking down of systems to birth new. Breaking down systems to birth new. Doesn't sound so bad. All right, we got to break down some systems to birth some new ones. Sounds good. And then I got total collapse. Now, my human instinct hearing total collapse was like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what the F?
WTF.
And so, yeah, WTF. And so you know, the human in me kind of was like, oh man, what does this mean? Like, you know, what do you mean complete collapse? But remember, on that side, there is no human emotion. So she's like, that's the end game, game over, the end, period. So that's kind of where we left it when we got on with you.
Yeah. And there's so
So,
much rattling for me. So you continue until
yeah.
ready.
So when I ask about total collapse, what I get from them, I'm no longer on my notes now. I'm channeling this directly. When I ask about total collapse, the impression that they're giving me is that this is the end. We're seeing the ending playing out. Now, when we channeled back in like June or July of last year, it was all very general, and they gave us a time frame of 12 to 18 months. And I find that really interesting that it was 12 to 18 months back then.
Yeah.
Which feels like, this is me, the human, feels like we're going to really see some fireworks come summertime. Either this thing's going up in smoke, or we're going to see some real transitions between, June or July through the end of the year next year. Now, in the United States, it's an election year. Woohoo! Right? Because everybody thinks for some reason that the president actually runs the country.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
Putting all of that aside, right? You've already seen all of these systems that are getting so intertwined and so involved. You've got courts that are deciding on elections, and you have, human rights advocates that are passing laws for different things. And you have, you had a medical system. The medical system in 2020 was perfectly happy murdering people because of an agenda, right? This is all being disclosed now. Back in 2021, back in 2020, when I was channeling saying, this is a fucking shit show, here we are. It's now all being exposed. So don't be surprised when these systems have to collapse. They're like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I ask about total collapse, the image that they're showing me is complete collapse. They're showing me actually a building like imploding floor by floor by floor by floor until it's just flat to the earth and just
Rubble.
smoke. Yeah.
Like
Does
it
that mean
cannot
the
be
end?
rebuilt.
Right. It cannot be rebuilt. Is this a bad thing? No, it's not. We talk about, and we've talked about on previous episodes about like new earth, right? New earth consciousness, new earth money, new earth, the actual place. We've had people on that have described new earth, that have created new earth. Like, I mean, if you haven't seen our previous episodes, you may want to just binge it at some point, because we've talked about a lot of topics relating to new earth. And this is where we're headed. This is the choice. So they're saying that this is the choice that you can make. You can go down with this ship, you can explode with the ship, or you can awaken and ascend into new earth and new earth experience. Does that mean that you're going to have the same physicality that you have right now? No, you won't. Wow, you won't. Oh, so what does that mean? As part of the ascension, you'll be gifted a new physical experience. So that's a lot to take in. And I feel like I've completely hijacked that. So Jody, what are you getting? What are your questions? What do you think?
Well, hold on. I need my teddy bear. Oh man. That kind of rocked me, just to be 100% honest. The no, you won't have the same physicality, because I think our brains try to reason and understand and control everything. So in my mind, as you were talking, like some of the things I feel I'm being led to, really demonstrate the possibilities of new earth and are really in alignment with a lot of the things that we've channeled and those feelings of joy and bliss and whatever. So I was kind of thinking like maybe it's just a transition into that, like all of those things, and it'll just be natural and the focus will shift. But hearing that physicality will change. makes me think otherwise, makes me wonder what that looks like. Something that we talked about before we hopped online was there's a lot of talk of solar flares and or an EMP event, which is basically, the way I understand it, is a nuclear explosion, but in the atmosphere. And that does just as much destruction or possibly more. I don't know, takes down communication, takes down things like that. But yeah, it's like an it's almost extinction level event. And when we were talking earlier, when we first started this episode, something that keeps coming to me is the end of a civilization. And I think that's a part of the great disclosure right now. If you haven't been seeing it, you're gonna, now that I've put it into your awareness, all of these old buildings that we see, all of these old buildings that, we perceive as churches. And are they really, pyramids are one thing, but that's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to design and construction. And I could go on and on about these different things that are clearly not technology. That's the other one, that are clearly not from our civilization. They're from a past civilization completely. And these things are starting to come out. And I think that maybe this is just me speaking. This is me not channeling. I haven't opened it up yet. They're there. I just haven't let them speak. But I think that this is the end of a civilization. And I get correct.
So as we have this discussion, something that's popping into my human brain is timeline.
Yeah.
And not timeline of 2024, but timeline as the existence of our perception in time right now. So we did an episode not long ago about the Mandela effect and about, is this a change in timeline or a different perception of the timeline? And that is now something that I'm thinking about. And I'm like, okay, well, so if this is like the end of a civilization, do we shift timeline? Like, is that why our physicality changes? Like, or is it a change to exist in another environment? In another environment entirely. So when I ask this question of them, what I'm getting is that when this occurrence happens, they've talked about this before, they're saying, when this occurrence happens, for some, it's going to be very, like, they're just going to move and they're not even going to realize that it has occurred. They're not going to realize that their physicality has changed. They're going to think of it as, I've always been this. There's going to be no, like, before and after the event. There's not going to be that separation of before and after. They're saying many are going to experience it in this way. They're pleased that we have talked about what we call the Mandela effect, because there are going to be those of us that remember before the event and after the event. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Like, we're on that side. That's kind of neat. Anyway, so because we have seen this actually happen, like, that's why we wanted to talk about it. So that's kind of exciting. Sorry, I'm like fangirling here for a second. So I'm sorry. Let me tune back in here. Oh, right. So they're saying that those of us that remember from before and after the event, that we're going to be the ones that bridge the gap for those who remember before and after, but are fearful of what happened, or that are traumatized of what happened. Even though their new experience is going to be so much greater than their previous experience, it's still going to create fear and confusion. And they're saying this kind of like with a caveat, because in the new experience, technically fear doesn't exist. So it's going to be more of like a confusion of like, where did everything go? Like, where did these people go? Where did those people go? Like, where did this experience that I had go? There's not going to be a lot of them, but it is going to happen. They're also talking about this spanning 2 years in human timeline from the event. So the event is going to happen, and then 2 years from that is when the entire thing is going to be wrapped up in a new reality. So this is going to be 2027. 2027. So 2027, the event will have happened. It's been 2 years. It is now 2027. So is that safe to say the event 2025 or earlier? Yes. Yes. The events,
There's more. Yeah. Than
there's
one.
more than one, are going to be catastrophic events. It has already started. It is just simply going to amplify and intensify as the cleanse, they're using the term cleanse, occurs.
Okay.
It's the end of the experiment.
Pause. Everybody that's watching, I want you all to just take a deep breath in. Put your feet flat on the floor, and you're just going to take a deep cleansing breath out. Let go of any fear or concern you have. You're perfectly okay in this moment. You are protected. You are guided. You are light. And it is all meant to be. It's all happening for the greater good.
If I'm completely honest, I'm totally uncomfortable having this conversation. Like it really, like I'm as a human, I am a human, right? I may be very divinely connected. I may be able to channel the other side, but I am still a human being experiencing this just the same. So this doesn't come lightly for me either, because I also have family and friends and people that I care about that, potentially won't make the jump, that won't exist after the events. So, like, when you're taking in this information, remember that Jody Lynn and I are still human beings. We're not here to freak you out or scare you or anything like that. We're simply bringing forth information, and you can throw it into the fuck it bucket and move on, or you can enjoy the contrast that is occurring for your benefit. You can choose your outcome, and you can choose how you perceive your reality. You have that power to choose. So do not feel like you're completely helpless to all of this that's going to come up, because you're not. You can choose how you perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get out the popcorn and just watch the show while holding on to your loved ones. That's okay too. You can choose to get involved. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of choice here. The thing, when I sat down this morning and prepared for today's live show, one of the things that I really grappled with was creating fear and panic. And I grappled with, if this is going to be such a fireworks conversation, how is what I say going to send people off the deep end? Like, I was really struggling with this today. Mm-hmm. To be completely honest, and one of the things that just kept coming in, ringing through to me is, there's always the law of free will. And as human beings, souls incarnate into physicality, into human physicality, we are gifted with the law of free will. You get to choose regardless. It doesn't matter if I tell everybody to empty their bank accounts and go buy a bunch of shit and be crazy, doomsday is here, okay? That it's your choice to do whatever it is or not do whatever it is that you do or not do. And that was something that I was really struggling with, because I know that, you know, my students, people who follow me, you know, sometimes the guides will say things to them and they will just instantly take action on whatever the guide has said without using any discernment. And this is probably why we practically beat in discernment last year. I mean, how many episodes about discernment did we have? It had to have at least been 15 or 20 episodes where we discussed discernment. So people, please use your discernment. Even if it's coming from me, even if it's coming from creator, use your discernment, because that is your free will right. Okay. Jody, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think just to throw another perspective into the mix, I think this conversation will also be a permission slip for people, for some people. The permission slip of, you get to choose what's most important to you, what is of your highest joy, what is going to fill your heart with passion and love and excitement, and what is your soul calling you. And that's the way that I receive this message, is if there is going to be several catastrophic events, you know, what would I do differently knowing that information? You know, if I know in the next 2 years, whatever it is, and maybe it's the next year, that we will see these catastrophic events that obviously they're catastrophic. So they're going to be rough for some people. I could walk into that or I could walk through the next however many months in fear or in fuck it, nothing matters or whatever. Or I could use that as my permission slip to, you know, wring out all of the juices this experience has to offer, all of the beauty this experience has to offer, all of the things that I was here to learn, and the things that I was here to teach, and the things that I was here to say, and the things that are in my heart. It's time to say those things, to do those things, to write your own ship and go in the direction that you feel you're being called. And this information for me is that permission slip.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can get some targeted information.
Yeah, you said events. I have questions, if I may.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so you said events. And there's multiple events. Is there have the events been solidified, or are they still, I don't even know what the word is, help me, Heather, where it hasn't been actually said, like, yes, this is concrete, this is happening?
Okay, so what they're saying is that the events are across every single sphere of existence.
Oh,
so it's not like a tsunami is going to come in and take out a country, right? Maybe it will. Okay, like maybe it will, but that's not going to be the event that wipes everybody out, right? It's going to be weather events. It's going to be like earth shifting events. It's going to be control events. It's going to be we've already had several medical events, but it's not the end of the medical events, but it's kind of on like the way out, the medical events. There's just going to be the outcome from the medical events. So,
Like the disclosure.
right. Well, and the aftermath. So, you know, people who have made certain choices or have done certain things, there's going to be um like retribution for those who have maybe misled. And there's also going to be a great exit from those who have been harmed. So there's definitely going to be a wave of humans that are going to, move on to the next life as a result of some of those medical events. And we're already starting to see that now. So that's like the medical side of it. They're also talking about catastrophic events in the financial sector, the technology sector. They're talking about the creation. We will most likely see the creation of a what is that you're telling me? A, a cyborg? I don't even know what a cyborg is. Is that like a human robot?
I think so.
It's like, because that's kind of the impression I'm getting is like it's a human robot, like a robot or a human that's been like kind of turned into a robot. God, this sounds like a sci-fi movie, right?
Totally.
So they're also talking about
Yeah, it's like Terminator.
oh, okay.
Cyborg.
Okay. I don't really remember Terminator. Was that a robot? Or was that like a
Human slash robot. So it's person whose physical abilities are extended beyond normal human limitations by mechanical elements built into the body. So it's like a
oh,
cross between machine and man.
okay. Well, and the thing is, okay, so let's see. Let's see if we can get more information about that. Okay, so what they're saying is that this is going to be like there's going to be an implant that is going to change the way that humans process information. And it's going to be like a linking system that is going to have like computer influence. So this is something that is going to happen this year. And it's going to be like exploited to the public as this wonderful advancement in technology and an advancement for humanity. But it's going to be it's not going to advance humanity. It's going to advance like technology and therefore agendas behind the technology. So there is a little cautionary flag that's going up about it that's saying if you participate, understand that you will be controlled. So if you're cool with that, do it. If you're not cool with that, maybe watch the technology for a while and then see if you still want to participate.
Sounds like the market beast.
Yeah, maybe. Um okay, so when it comes to government sector, they're so funny. They're like, yeah. Let's talk about that. I don't know if my dad's watching right now, but if you are, Dad, you're gonna love this. They're talking about a complete upheaval in government and the formation of a single government. So this is something that I actually do follow, complete disclosure. I have been like researching a one world government agenda for quite some time. And so to me, this doesn't seem that far off. And I just want to disclose that so that everybody knows that I do have some knowledge in this area. But they're saying that we will see the formation of a one world government late in the year based on our current timeline and our current trajectory. They are putting that in there.
Oh,
When I think about some of the people that are in control right now, that sounds horrible, because
Yeah.
those are the ones that are probably going to be part of this one world government. When they're talking about like the economic infrastructure of the world, and they're showing utter and complete collapse. This is an agenda for the transfer of power. So
They're going to collapse the economy so they can transfer the power.
exactly. They're going to make it so hard for like commerce to occur that there will be no choice other than to go along with what their plan is. We're the government and we're here to save the day, basically, is what I'm getting. So, so the question that I just asked is, you know, how do we protect ourselves? Like, what do we do? You know, my human is sitting here freaking out inside, going, "Oh my God," you know. Um, but what they're sending me like a reassuring vibe, and in this reassuring vibe, they're sending me the message of those that are of like pure heart, that have aligned themselves already with light. Those will not feel the suffering, for they will be taken and transported to new earth experience in advance of the catastrophic events that will ensue. There will be some that are going to watch and like experience those events as they happen, so that they can come over and explain what happened. But that process, they're saying, is going to take 2 years
After the events.
after the events. In like a human timeline, is they're like wanting to preface that as like within a human timeline. They're in on their end of things, it's like bing bang boom, but on a human timeline, it's gonna feel for a long time. They're likening the economic situation to like the Great Depression, like times 1,000. So, you know, there will be, you know, famine. There's going to be shortages of things. It's the thing is like it's manufactured this way in order to create the transfer of power.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you can
ultimately,
really
in the
see this. Sorry to interrupt you. You can really
no,
start to see this with what they're doing with farmers. I don't know if you've seen the stuff happening in Germany. The farmers are protesting right now because the government's trying to steal farms. That happened in the Netherlands. That's happening, I believe, in India, like around the world. We've seen land grabs happen, Hawaii, it's happening in Canada, all of those things. So you can see how that famine piece of things, the economic side of things, more control, more regulations. I can see a cyber attack of some sort, maybe perhaps playing out to get everybody to go towards digital identification. And then they can control every dollar that you're earning. And if you're not in the system, you wouldn't be able to earn in the traditional way. And I'm just getting yes, yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, I'm also getting validation of that. So, do you have any questions from anybody? How's our chat going? No
Nobody's
questions.
asked any questions yet.
Okay, everyone's probably standing there with their jaw down around their kneecaps.
Yeah.
Okay, pick your jaws up, people. It's gonna be okay. We're all in it together. So there is that. Okay, so they're bringing into my awareness about planning, not planning for the zombie apocalypse that might be headed our way, but planning in the way of this has all been planned.
Mm.
So they are wanting to remind that this has all been planned and that our souls coming into this experience knew, had complete understanding of what was going to happen. So they're bringing this up because they're saying that some people are thinking that they haven't lived their life well. They haven't lived enough, or they haven't lived in the right way, or they may feel pain or guilt around the way that they've lived their life and the experiences that they've had. And what they're saying is that it's okay, that the time that you have spent here was exactly according to the plan that you placed. They're saying that when the souls that are incarnate on Earth came in this span of human timeline, from the very beginning, the oldest person who exists on Earth today to the newest baby that was born 3 minutes ago, that every soul that is here collectively in this time came in understanding what its future was going to look like. And when they developed their plan, they developed it understanding what the Earth plan actually, the humanity plan actually was. So do not feel bad or disappointed or have any pain about this transitionary time period, because you, on a soul level, already knew and like wanted to come anyway. Like this is they're equating this to how exciting it was when the Earth experiment began. The souls who came in the beginning of the Earth experiment were just like, woo, this is going to be awesome, right? And then they dropped into who the heck knows what, right? And then they were like, oh my God, what happened, you know? And
Yeah.
so they're likening this to the same. So when it first started, everybody was like, oh man, this is going to be so great. And, you know, now that it's coming to a close, the souls are like, oh man, this is going to be so great. So, like, try to keep that in the back of your mind somewhere. I know it's probably a little far-fetched sounding, but they're wanting us to remember that. Are you getting any dates? You're so good at that type of channeling.
Yes, thank you. So I haven't asked about specific dates, but one thing that I did ask about is the like puzzle pieces, the way that it will shake down. So not all, but the economic stuff, the economic stuff, the control, the like the attacks, those kinds of things will begin to happen far sooner than the big disruptions with the environment, is the way that they're putting it. So that could be like the EMP, which takes out communication and stuff like that. The bigger volcanoes, bigger eruptions, the pole shifting, like that kind of stuff will be at the end of the events. It'll be kind of like the
The
encore.
crescendo.
Yeah.
Oh, the encore. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Like the crescendo, the encore, like this is it. Like this is the great finale to everything. And the purpose to like to those last levels you were seeing on that building is to like cut them off completely. And when I said it earlier in the episode, it's a building is dismantled and it's a pile of rubble and cannot be rebuilt. That is the purpose of all of this. All of this is meant to happen so that that system, the way that it is, cannot be rebuilt the way that it was. You can't just like, oh, well, let's pick up the bricks and rebuild it so it's exactly the same. That's not the plan. So it has to be it has to be blown up enough that it's unrecognizable. You can't You can't pick it up again and run with it. Okay, so are there specific dates on some of these things? What will we see first? When I feel into the one world government, it's closer to the end of the year. Like, I want to say after the election was supposed to have happened. Well, that's interesting.
Supposed to have happened.
So there won't be one. Correct. Okay. I get that the cyberish attacks, whatever, there's going to be some of that stuff to gain more control. That's going to happen before then. And not, this is funny. Anybody watch Leave the World Behind? Heather, no. Okay, anyway. In that movie talks about the end of the world, and there is some sort of cyber attack that takes down like the power grid, shuts everything off. And then they don't know who did it, and there's nobody coming to help, and whatever, right? They're like, not like that. Because it's an engineered one. I get more summertime, like June, July, perhaps. Somewhere in there that there'll be an engineered attack. And I get that it could be infrastructural things. But I see this like net, like normally when you see like cell phone structures on a map, it's like all these blinking lights and like these, not chains, but like cords that connect them. When you see it on a map, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I see that. But it won't be like, oh my God, end times, like that movie portrayed, but enough to scare people to get towards the one world government. It will definitely mess some stuff up though, with like water, sewer, food, those kinds of things. Like rock those systems so they are unstable. And the purpose is to get people to want to sign up for the digital stuff, the digital dollar, the digital ID, like government save me, martial law kind of thing. Take care of me. But this isn't just going to be isolated or localized to the United States or North America. This is going to be around the world, and hence the one world government is what they're saying. There was something else in there that will ripple to the financial collapse. So that will be like August, September. So June, July, some sort of like attack, cyber attack. I don't know enough about cyber stuff for that, but some sort of attack like that. Then it ripples to the economic crash, the financial crash, essentially. And then moving forward with the one world government plan, there is going to be a lot of environmental things that are happening in different pockets in different places. Which also like supports their theory, this theory of global warming and environmental disasters and stuff like that. But I get the feeling that it has nothing to do with that at all. It is either engineered or in correlation with the poles shifting. When I ask though, will the poles completely flip this year in 2024? I get a no. Like I get that will be spill out like January, and that will probably be the crescendo. I don't know what happens when the poles flip.
I guess it depends on what your beliefs are about the planet. I mean, do flat earthers believe in poles?
I think they believe that north is right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. So where's south? Just doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, it's interesting that these types of conversations happen, right? That there's I love that this conversation is actually occurring because, even 3 years ago, having a conversation about the potential of a flat earth, about the potential of governments lying about going to the moon or going into space, or all of these other things that are starting to like come out and be part of the conversation. It really makes you wonder, and I love that we're having the conversation. I know a lot of people talk about flat earthers as they're just a bunch of boneheads that are, completely clueless. But are they? Have you been to space? Do you know for sure? I don't know for sure. I know that I was taught that we are live on a big sphere, but I also know that I have channeled information about the true structure of the existence here, and it's not flat and it's not a sphere. So, that it's a hologram. So, what do we know? I guess we'll all find out, here in the next year. What type of structure we actually are part of.
Oh my gosh. This just tweaked in my brain. I'm gonna say it. I don't know. So say it. Okay.
Do it,
Just,
do it.
going along with like the hologram theory and whatever. There's some people that believe or think, or I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. That we're kind of like the way that the Matrix describes it. We're not sitting in like a vat of water or whatever on some wall somewhere and they're sucking energy from us. But that we are asleep essentially, and that this is all a dream, all a hologram essentially. And it's really interesting. That has been on my mind. Has popped up in a few different things. And today I was headed into the city to go to an appointment, and I was listening to the radio, and it was so interesting because it was all like childhood youth songs, like when I was in high school. And I was like, wow, this is rad. I feel like I've, hopped timelines. Like I have recorrected the timeline and gone back to a time like a more youthful timeline. And then I was listening to the radio, and there was this Eminem song. And things like this have been happening to me a lot lately, where there's things that have changed that I don't remember them being that way, where I could swear they were, or I've had this conversation or done this, or like it's like Mandela effects, but in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's harder to actually see them. Anyway, two things that I noticed about this Eminem song. It's Mockingbird, song that he wrote for his daughter. He's talking about his daughter and another kid, which I've probably listened to that song, I don't know, hundreds of times. I used to love Eminem, right? Like I was a huge Eminem fan, but never heard him talk about this other kid. I can't remember the name, Leia. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I can't even recall the name, but I was struck by it. Like I've listened to this song enough to know all of the words, and I don't ever recall him talking about another daughter, maybe perhaps like a stepdaughter. That was one thing. And then also in the words, he said, maybe we'll wake up one day and realize this was all a dream.
Now, were those lyrics in there before that you remember?
Not that I recall.
Wow. Interesting.
Very interesting. And it made me think of this hologram scenario. And maybe perhaps these catastrophic things happen. Because another question we asked, where I'm going with this, is what are we waking up to and what are we waking up from? Could it all be a dream?
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. I mean, it could all be a dream or a nightmare, depending on which way you go.
Well, you get to choose. You get to actively participate. And maybe that's the message. Maybe that is what we're waking up to, is the ability to choose, actively choose the experience.
Yeah. Well, happy 2024, y'all. I am so thrilled to be on this journey with you, Jody Lynn, with all of you, our viewers. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover this year, we're happy to do so. If you would like for us to host a channeling event, like a private channeling event, let us know. Hit us up. We've got a little bit of time still in our schedule. It's early in the year, so we're here to support and guide you through this crazy ass journey we all signed up for. And thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.